So here in After Effects, I've started a new project. And what I'm going to do is in this project panel here, I'm going to double click and go to my Illustrator file here, highlight that. I'm not going to double click on it and say open. I need to check a few settings here. And here I'm going to say import as composition and make sure that create composition is checked. So these are the settings I want, and I'll say open. So what that does is in the project panel here, it creates a new composition based on that Illustrator file. And so what we can do is we can open that up, double click that composition, and here it is in After Effects. And you see that there are the layers over here corresponding to the Illustrator layers. And we can turn them on and off individually. So there's the first floor, second floor, third floor, the roof, etc. And what we have here are in the timeline area, the relative lengths of the entire of each of those items. We turn them back on, and we just kind of scrub through the timeline, and we get something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some simple animation of opacity. And so what I want to do, though, is also be able to put these on in our project composition viewer here, so that it reflects the axonometric layout that we want. So what we're going to do first is make sure that the roof is selected, the layer here, grab the artwork here, and just move it up. Highlight the third floor and move that where we think it needs to be. Second floor, move that up to where we think it wants to be. So I think the third floor needs to be a little bit higher. So we might end up with something a little like that. Maybe the roof wants to be, might be okay with the roof going off the page a little, just so we can see the circulation of the back of the pool area. Okay, so what that has done is now we can, with these locations there, we can set a keyframe. So with all these things selected, I can say, I can open up the T for transform, no, sorry, not T, but P for position, and click this little keyframe thing for all of them. So at the very beginning in the timeline here, we're going to just start with these items in this position. Now what we can do also here is I'm going to pull this out and hit Option. I'm going to select all of those layers and hit Option right square bracket just to extend. We might as well bring this out to say 20 seconds here and do that Option right square bracket. So that means that brings our final animation time here to 20 seconds. And now what we can do is we can selectively keyframe the opacity. And so if I want the roof and second floor, third floor to be off at first, what we'll do is come back to 0, 0. We'll type T for the opacity, and let's create a keyframe there for all of those and set the opacity there to 0. Then at some point, we'll come through and maybe, how about 1.5 seconds later, so here in the timeline, 1 second and 15 frames, because we're at 30 frames per second, so 15 is half a second. So the right number will tick between 0 and 30 indicating 1 second. So for the second floor, we'll put in another keyframe here. And all we have to do is turn up the opacity, and as see, it created a second keyframe there. We'll go forward another 1.5 seconds to 3 seconds. And you can see that here, 229, I wanted that 3.0. I'll move the playhead a little bit more. And so on the third floor, the opacity, we'll grab this and turn that up to, whoops. Well, we can just enter in here then, 100 there. And then finally, another 1.5 seconds later, 4:15, we'll enter a keyframe opacity for the roof. And so if we scrub through that, we basically get a simple fade in of each one of those. And what we can do is we want to adjust, say, the beginning keyframe here of each one of these. If you hold down Shift, it'll snap to keyframes that you already have. And maybe what we want to do is we actually want to fade in the ground floor too. So let's highlight all of those, and I'll move them forward 1.5 seconds here. And then we'll move the playhead here and keyframe. Let's go back to the beginning. We'll change for the first floor, hit T again, we're at opacity. We'll put a keyframe value of 0, go forward here, 1.5 seconds, keyframe value of 100. So now if we scrub through this, first floor comes in, second floor comes in, and as soon as one is complete, the level above comes in. We can stagger them a little bit more if we want. Maybe it's every 2 seconds, and then so that we hold on each one for about 0.5 seconds before the next one comes in. So we'll go to 6 seconds here and move that. All right, so now if I hit spacebar, it'll play. First floor comes in, holds for 0.5 seconds, then the second floor, third floor, fourth floor. Okay, so that's a simple keyframe animation of opacity there. Now with the diagram exploded here and with that fade in animation done, I'm going to take a screenshot of this final version, the final frame here, using composition, save frame as file. If we can see that. Composition, save frame as file. And the render queue opens up, and it shows here that it's going to output a Photoshop file. I don't really want that. I want to click on that, and I want a simple PNG with alpha channels and video. Let's see. And I think that's it. And we'll hit OK. And make sure that it's going to the right location. And we'll hit over here the render button. And here in Illustrator, we'll create a new document that's the same size as our usual 1920 by 1080. We'll go back here and grab that exported image from After Effects, and this should be exactly the same size as our artboard because our After Effects composition is the same size. And we'll lock this layer. Let's call this background and make a new layer, and we can call this text. And then what we can do is just begin to put in some text labels for each of the items. So we might have lobby And let's change the font to, let's say, and give it decent size, decent color. Perhaps we can use leaders here, so I'll draw a line and give it a stroke and color. Let's maybe about 3 point, and let's also make that red. And also, how about an arrowhead of a dot? Let's give it a dot arrowhead. So say arrow 21. It's a little big. Let's make that about half that size, maybe not quite half that size, all right? And so we can continue labeling different items in various ways. You don't have to do it this way. You can use, come up with other ways of doing it. So perhaps if this is the restaurant, perhaps, etc. So I've got my items labeled in here, and what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to break them out into separate layers, because then we can animate them individually and have them fade in independent of each other. So I've got, let's see how I've got labels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need that many new layers. And so let's see, we'll keep lobby there. We'll move bar lounge to the next one. And then how about restaurant? We'll just kind of go left and right to number 4. We'll save this and just call this, let's below that axon labels. From here, we go back to After Effects and do the same thing like we did with the axon image. We go to our project palette here, or panel, I guess it's called, and we can do a file, import, do file, and let's find that. Here's that our label file, and again we do the same thing. Set it as a composition, create composition, open that. All right, so over here it's brought in exploded axon labels as a composition. If we double click that, this is that Illustrator file, and see it opens in our timeline that composition. Our main composition is this one, Ocean Exploded Axon. Also, you see in the projects panel is that this Exploded Axon labels layers. So there are also the individual layers here that it brought in as vector art. So for example, there's the background. You can see the little preview up here. There's the back of house. Right, all these labels. The spa, you can kind of see the tiny little preview up there. If I double click on it there, spa, restaurant, pool, etc., etc. So we can bring those into the timeline, into our main timeline here of our main composition. So what we can do is we can grab those. Don't take the background because that's the image already. And we can drag those in. And what we should do is, while they're still selected, move them to the top of the timeline. There. All right. So if we can do this, we'll put our playhead here at the very end of the last fade in. With those layers selected, I hit Option left square bracket. So those labels don't start, those don't appear until the very last fade in. So if we just kind of preview this, 4 axon layers fade in, and then there's the text. Okay, but of course we can also we can animate the text and have that fade in the very same way that we had the layers. And in fact, what we might want to do is do it per floor. So we might want to go back to here in our on our first floor, and somewhere before, say before the it's completely faded in, say if we're at 115, maybe we start exactly at maybe at 1 second here. Now we can pull, perhaps we pull, we grab the lobby, and let's go ahead and put that to the bottom of the stack also. Again, let's move that down here. The lobby and the restaurant and the lounge we can put there on the bottom. We can select those 3 layers and do the option left square bracket again, and then have these fade in. Perhaps something like the lobby. Now we can hit with lobby over those 3, hit T to open up the opacity keyframe. Let's just select the lobby alone and put in a keyframe here, 0 opacity. Actually, all of these right here should be 0 opacity. All 3 of those. And then maybe over the course of 5 frames or so, let's see how that might be a little fast. Let's change the lobby opacity to 100. And right here, let's select those and we'll do the lounge, next 5 frames, so 115. We'll put in a keyframe here that fades in. Let's see here if we just play that. Okay, and then what we can do is maybe we can adjust the timing for all these others. So we'll have first floor fade in, text X text, and we should hold on that a little bit. So what we'll do is I'll select all these other keyframes for the fading of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors, and maybe instead of having it 2 seconds, let's hold on it and let's go to all the way to 3 seconds. Let's add a whole second for people to take a look at this. Let's see how that timing works. We'll go back, go, all right, hold, the next one. Okay, so that timing is probably pretty good. So then let's play that. There we go. And the roof. All right, so that whole animation there, that's only, say lasts about 15 seconds. I mean, if we wanted to linger on the end there. So if we selected everything, all of these, here's a useful key also, keystroke in After Effects. If you whatever layers you have selected, if you hit U, that'll toggle whether it shows the keyframes that it has or hides them. So I hit U. You can see that some of them have both position and opacity right now. Right. I'll hide those and put the playhead here at 15 seconds, and I'll hit Option right square bracket. And so right now our animation's 15 seconds. And actually there's one more thing, or a couple other things we can do here.